Welcome to the Manders Mindset podcast. Here you'll find both monologue and interviews of entrepreneurs, coaches, healers, and a variety of other people, where your host Amanda Russo will discuss her own mindset and perspective and her guest mindset and perspective on the world around us. Manders and her guests will help explain to you how shifting your mindset will shift your life.
I am so excited and thrilled to be here. Welcome to Manders Mindset, where we explore the power of shifting your mindset to shift your life. Life has really come full circle for me, and I am so excited for you guys to hear today's amazing guest. Today's guest is a fan favorite, and that's not just coming from me. That is even coming from the stats. First guest episode we ever had, still the most popular episode of Manders Mindset. We are back with our fave, Chris G. Chris, thank you so much for coming back on the show. I am so excited to have you.
And you know that I am extremely happy to be back here. I want to know what you want to ask. And what you ask is always extremely authentic. And what you ask is very important. And you're going to answer things, or maybe we can help, people answer things that they have questions that they need answers for. If not, then we'll be available for them afterwards. In my case, that's okay. You can always ask me. I will always be there for you. So, yeah, from what I understand, the premise of the questions, or what we're going to cover a bit, is that we're going to cover some deep stuff. And the bottom line is that always know who you can talk to, how, know the balance, all that stuff. And, we'll take it from there, my dear. Again, I said that the first podcast. You'll take.
You did say that the first episode. Knowing who you can talk to. I like how you said, just certain people you can rely on versus not. Even like us here today, I've known that you are moving a lot of stuff, sir. I am hearing a lot of background noise.
Just a piece of paper. I took notes. You know why? Because vision is important.
I take notes too, but I know how to be quiet with my notes, Chris.
It's all right. I'm sorry. I won't scoot around anymore. It's fine.
So I want to know who you would say, Chris, is at the core.
The core of myself is the ability for myself to have the ability, again, it doesn't sound counterintuitive, to understand myself, to be able to question myself. And therefore, if I am able to question myself and go through life actively, and then be able to properly engage those same questions with the people that are around me, that tells me the truth that surrounds me, because I originate the truth. For sure. And I've done that many times, and that's the way it is. As far as I know. If you want to teach me different, go ahead.
Can you take us down memory lane? Tell us about your family dynamic, childhood, upbringing, however deep you want to take that.
I'll take it as deep as you want to go. So, my mom had me when she was 17. My mom, she died of ALS about, 3 years ago. My biological father, his name is Earl, never knew him. And it's funny because I remember wearing diapers, all that stuff, but for some reason I don't remember his presence at all. So he committed suicide about 7 years ago. I realized that on Father's Day because I had reached out to him when, well, it was Father's Day. I'm like, oh gosh, it's time. I'm mature enough and I can handle it. And, it's kind of to reach out to the biological male side of the family. And it's funny. I had a phone call from my Uncle Mike. Now I call my Uncle Mike. He called me back about an hour later. And he told me, well, I could tell by the tone of his voice that things are different. Something's not okay. Something's not okay. I'm like, well, I was reaching out to my dad. And I reached out to you because I couldn't find him. And he's like, I knew there was something wrong. And he's like, oh. And he's like, you don't know? Well, no, I presume nothing. I presume truth. Just give me the truth. And I could tell. And he's like, well, no. It's interesting because 3 days prior or 2 days prior, I was planning on reaching out and just being like, hey, I'm your son, all that stuff. Da, da, da. I called him up 2 days later the night before Father's Day. And Uncle Mike called me up. He's like, yeah. And you always know when something's wrong. I do. I'm like, what's up? I mean, like, I've never even talked to you before either, but what's up? I thought you knew. Well, your dad nailed himself 2 days ago. It's like the same time I was trying to reach out. Just to know who this man was. He died a lonely man on Deer Island in Maine. He died a lonely guy. And it's not his fault at all. You just never had the support or any sort of infrastructure to regain his just vibration, who he was or who he is or could, all that stuff. It's just, he felt his heart broke and then that's it. Just nailed it. That's one. The other one is my mom, like I mentioned, my mom died of ALS about 3 years ago. I get so caught up in work that I do disregard I disregard things. I just have to because it's how to work. I'm a farm boy. And I remember the last time I saw my mom, all she said, because she had ALS, she could barely talk. I just remember those last words is that, I love you, in a whisper. Just a whisper. And every single time, I always followed up with a kiss. A hug and a kiss and a prayer. That last time, I did not. And I went down the South Shore to do my work. And then my dad, Randy, not my biological father, but he's the man that adopted me and raised me as his son, who is my dad, who I'm very close to these days. He called me up and he said, these are the last moments. Here it is. And he knew. And I appreciate and I adopt and I appreciate people who know things spiritually, especially when they come to fruition, even when it comes to death. But it's like, it's time. I'm like, I can't lead this project. I can't do all that stuff. And my dad, being the one that taught me the work ethic, says he understands. And then 20 minutes later, I called him out. I'm like, you know what? I'll pack everything down. I'm ready to go. Packed everything down, ready to go. And he just calls me up. He's like, she's moved forward. It's done now. It's all right. She's done now. You don't have to worry about it. And I kept working. I mean, I understood it. I talked to some of my people. I kept going. But it taught me that the human souls are so valuable. It almost doesn't even matter what it takes. As long as they believe in themselves to be able to respond to certain decisions. And we have to learn the hard way sometimes. I've had to. It is what it is. Sometimes you don't know what's right until you look back and understand what's wrong. As long as you're truthful to yourself, you're fine. And in this case, sure, there's regrets. Sure. But was I truthful to myself? Yes. Why? Because that was what I was taught. And I thought that was right. And that's okay. Gosh, I mean, the only other regrets I have is my last bird going to Bosch Mama. My poor cocktail had separation anxiety. And he hated when I left home. But I had to go up there every weekend, and at first it was fine, but there's a certain thing called soulmates. And how that originates is with divinity. And that's something I will never, ever question. You know why? Because truth has no explanation. But you know truth when you hear it. Same thing with humans or people. Same thing with animals. I mean, that's why I bond with horses and the animals I've ever had in my life. It's really beautiful. It really is. But I know where things go. And that's great.
Now, can you tell us a little bit more about your childhood? Can we go a little further back? Any siblings?
I remember being born in Florida. Like, my grandparents were really pissed off. And they sent my mom down to Florida, Hollywood, Florida. That's where I was born. Before I was born, and she was 17 at the time, which was kind of underage, all that stuff. And I'm like, no, they got pissed and they sent her down there. And I'm like, well, now you get to deal with your grandparents. We don't want to deal with it because they're like hoity-toity, all that stuff. So she did. And that's where I was born. I mean, that's where my first memories are. And I remember wearing diapers. I remember embarrassing stuff, before you can actually like waddle around. I remember all that. It's pretty incredible. But I do. I got stung by a man-o-war when I was 1.5. I remember that. That was interesting. What do you really want now?
Whatever it is you want to share with me.
Okay. So basically, when I was 2.5 or 2 3/4, I think it was almost 3, because it was prior to Thanksgiving. They flew my mom back up here to New Hampshire, and they realized they actually oh, we like this kid. He's pretty interesting. We actually like him. And they told my mom her name was Debbie, or is Debbie. And they're like, well, if you want to come back up here, because she finished high school down there, you can finish college or just go to college, get yourself enrolled and all that stuff. And we do like this kid, Chris. He's not bad. And so she did. And so we flew back up here to New Hampshire. And I used to go to college classes with my mom. And she just bought me markers every day. And now I would just sit there and draw pictures and portraits of people. I'm pretty good at it. If anyone wants to hire me, then I'm pretty good at it. So we did that. We did that for a long time. And then my mom, my dad, Randy, he's a 4th degree black belt. and in karate. We all grew up in karate. And then my mom, she was at her red belt. And that's where she met my dad, who was her instructor. And I don't know, magic happened or something. It was pretty amazing. However it works. And I remember my grandparents were out of town, as usual. And she had my dad come over. My dad, you haven't met yet, but Randy. And it was Valentine's Day. So kind of a romantic day, I assume. And he came over and he was just like the coolest dude I ever met. He's like, this is how you put holes in the bottom of chocolates and, figure out like which ones you like and which ones you don't like. Just put them back. It's all right. And so I'm like, this guy is pretty good. Yeah, I like him. I like him a lot. Beyond this is supernatural.
What do you mean by supernatural?
Okay. So my grandparents, they collected antiques. It's the antique house. Is everything they do is very thorough. All that stuff. So they had a big sleigh bed, probably weighed about, I didn't even know, 500 pounds, 400 pounds. I have no idea. Too little for a 3.5-year-old. I still go through sleep paralysis because of my PTSD and whatnot, things like that. But I used to get told what to do. And that night that we poke holes through the chocolates and whatnot, I went into my grandparents' bedroom where their sleigh bed was. It was really heavy. Those are heavy mahogany beds. All I remember is just not being able to move, and the sleigh bed was over my head. And it wasn't quite suffocating me, but it was enough. I had a bloody nose, and I remember that. And I remember smelling my blood, all that. And luckily with paralysis, you might not be able to move your body, but you're able to use your voice, which it did. And somehow they heard it. And I just remember had picked up the bed, just pulling me out. I mean, at that point in my life, I can really save my life. That's how I felt. Not a lot of people go through this. It's like 1 in 10 million or something, but it matters not. But they heard me, and he pulled me out. And, from that point forward, I'm like, yeah, you're pretty good. You save my life, I'll save yours. And I'll support yours. Yeah. Loyalty goes a very long way. For sure. I don't mind sharing this. Yes. There's probably a lot of people that actually want to know what paralysis is, how it feels, how to deal with it, and all that stuff. And, I can share what I know. There's not a lot of research, but it's a real deal. And there's a reason why you deal with it. I get it.
Yeah, can you delve into that?
Not really. There's not a lot of research. Do you want to know what it feels like?
Yeah, as best as you can describe it.
All right. Well, anyone who has gone through it, they will know this. So you're in mid sleep. You meet your REM sleep, because I have the opposite sleep schedule. Like, I don't fall asleep and then hit my deep sleep schedule. Mine is, starts at maybe 3:30 o'clock a.m. And that's where it really starts. And so when it does occur, I'm pretty well versed in it now, and I know what's going to happen. I know I'm going to be okay. I know it's always going to be all right. So basically, the physical occurrence is just you can use your voice. You're able to use your voice, which I have. I have many times. And you just, everything weighs 1,000 pounds in your body. You just can't move. You can't move your covers. You can't move your hands. You can't, everything is just, there's nothing you can do except just be like, I understand what this is, and I'm going to be all right. Because sleep paralysis never hurt anyone, ever. Ever. But it happens to some of us. But in the meantime, when that does occur, I mean, that is when you're allowed to really, if you go the opposite way, is understand your spiritual well-being and understand that alignment, which is quite important to me.
And now, approximately how long does this last?
22 seconds. 22 seconds to maybe 40 seconds.
Is this something you experience frequently?
Oh, yeah. Every other day. At least. I can always tell when it's going to happen.
It's that frequent. And you can tell when it's going to happen.
Yeah, I can.
How?
Intuition. I know. I mean, to me, it's not normal, but it's normal.
And how old were you about when you experienced this the first time?
First time, 5. Which, that was the most traumatizing one. I mean, I've experienced a lot of things from that point forward. No, but the only time when I was young, the first time, I happened to be face down on my pillow when I was sleeping. And I just felt suffocated. I couldn't breathe. And I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. Couldn't do it. And it felt like like I was little. So I felt like I was in the Jungle Book or something. It's like, I can't move. I can't do anything. And then just like energy hits you. It just like blasts you right in the butt. It's like, turn your head. Fresh air. And it's like the most fresh air I've ever had in my life. Most fresh air I've ever had in my life. So these days, and since then, I've always slept on my back or on my sides. And I know how to deal with it. I mean, I do. It's not really dealing with it. It's basically you're opening up yourself, or you're opened up to something a little different. Make from that what you will. I know what it is, but...
That must have been difficult, though, at 5, that first time you...
Well, I did it last night, so yeah, it must have been difficult last night. You're correct.
That too, but I mean, like your first time experiencing that. It wasn't more difficult then than it is now that you've experienced it this frequent?
I don't like sleeping. No, sleeping is not my favorite. What I go through during sleep is no thank you. I don't welcome it. I don't want it. I don't like it. I am the most lucid dreamer you probably ever talked to. No, I don't. No, I don't welcome it. Not at all. I wouldn't wish this on people I know, especially the ones that are curious. Because trust me, you don't want to know. That's the truth.
Oh, Chris.
It's all right. You're allowed to ask me these because people need to know, because I'm not the only one and I know that. I deal with other people's that have, friends that are working certain fields and whatnot, it is not uncommon, but it comes with the territory.
So let's backtrack this a little bit. Can you, before, take us down a little bit about your schooling years? You went back to New Hampshire. How was like middle school, high school, that type of time of your life for you?
Yeah. Well, I went to public school. I won't say the name of the public school. Just everybody figure out real quick if they want to. So I decided to move to Oregon. I decided to move out there and finish things out there. And that's where I finished up my diploma. And that's where I graduated. And then I decided to move back to New Hampshire. And that's where I went to Keene State and started studying physics. And from that point forward, then I decided to go into real estate.
How long did you do real estate for?
Still do.
You mentioned physics. Did you do anything with physics?
No, well, kind of. Nothing you can know about. What I learned about physics is that I got my doctorate or I get my master's. It doesn't matter. So basically, I either need to become a teacher or I invent something. And then I realized I can do that either way. That's why I decided to go into real estate. And that was 2021.
Now, why'd you get into real estate?
Money.
That's it? Just money?
Well, sure. I could say I like houses and all that stuff, which I do. But yes, money. I could like houses anyway. But yes, money.
There was no passion for anything relating to that?
Well, there's a passion, of course. I mean, that's what I do now. I work with masonry. I do something that robots can't, there's nothing they can do that I can't. And they can't. But outside of that, when it comes to the fiduciary system, when it comes to finances, things like that, yes, I understand the monetary system. And yeah, I understood that quite well. And yes. But instead of like most people going the other way, just trying to write loans and all that stuff and making 3% and what percent or anything off a $1 million loan or something like that. I'm like, hell no. Nope. Let's do something structural. It has to be structural. I am a Mason. Everything that we do is structural. No matter what. Period.
When did you get into masonry?
18. I asked. That's the rules.
Now, how did you discover that?
Well, it's part of the lineage of my family, I guess. Particular. On the conservative side, that matters not. Why I was drawn to it is because I want to understand certain things. Certain just things that are really not available in college, all that stuff. So I did. And I pointed everything towards that. And I can't say I got all the answers I ever asked for at all. Not at all. Not right away. It's like basically, you're a fraternity. But you do get to know some things, which are very important, which is what we're talking about right now. The best way I can answer that is far as your question is concerned.
So you start doing real estate, and
I know what you're doing.
what do you mean you know what I'm doing?
But tell me. Go ahead. Tell me.
Tell you what. I'm just trying to walk through the journey with you of your life.
I will tell you.
I'm listening. You said you'll tell me.
Well, you got to ask a question. Not goodness sakes. I mean, the journey of my life. Goodness sakes. Yeah. The best way to ask a question is to ask a question. And that's the worst way to ask a question. It's kind of funny. It's kind of an oxymoron. Because we don't do that. That means it's actually called anti-process. So we don't do that. Now, I know exactly what that is. I would appreciate if you tell me what your questions are, unless you want me to just go. Which I can. But you have to ask the right questions.
I don't ever go into it with specific questions.
Why not?
I also have got to be very careful what I say to you, because there's certain things you can't talk about. So my structure is different.
Okay. What do you want to know?
We can't go that deep because there's a lot you can't say.
I understand.
I'm just trying to figure out how to ask you stuff.
Name. What do you want to know?
It's just how you shifted. Like, okay, yeah, you're still doing real estate, but you, at some point in time, your life shifted. Yes, we met at a plant medicine ceremony. It's almost 3 years ago now. And at some point, your life shifted from Chris, real estate guy who just got the diploma just to get it, was into real estate just for money. You are a different person. Along this to now came that shift. I'm sure there was more than one.
All right.
And
No.
so have you heard of a man named Jay Shetty?
No.
He has a podcast called On Purpose. He wrote a book, motivational speaker, and he ends his podcast with 2 segments, and I have incorporated those segments into my podcast. So I ask these 2 segments. First segment is called The Many Sides to Us, 5 questions that need to be answered in 1 word each. First question, what is one word?
Wait. What's his name?
Jay Shetty.
Is there a parallel between him and JP? Or, is there any, do I just have to, take this off the cuff?
It's just questions that he asks in his podcast.
Okay. All right.
It's not, you don't have to know him to be able to answer these questions. These questions are about you.
Okay. Well, okay.
What is one word someone who was meeting you for the first time would use to describe you as?
What's your first memory?
Are you asking me my first memory?
No, but that's my first question. Answer a question with a person. Go ahead. Next.
What is one word someone who was meeting you for the first time would use to describe you as?
Chris.
What is one word someone who knows you extremely well would use to describe you as?
Understanding.
What is one word you'd use to describe yourself?
Love.
What is one word that if someone didn't like you or agree with your mindset would use to describe you as?
I don't like myself. Retaliation.
What is one word you're embodying right now?
You.
Second segment is the final 5. There's 5 questions, and these can be answered in up to a sentence. What is the best advice you've heard or received?
Listen to thyself.
Why is that the best?
I believe in truth. It negates all false. Listen to yourself. Know your truth.
What is the worst advice you've heard or received?
Probably these questions. Advice, goodness sakes. I really disregard all that. I don't know. I didn't like when it happens in my life. I don't really care. It matters not. I will hear bad advice. No, I'll take it away. I work for the biggest names in freaking business. We don't. It's okay if they get things wrong. What we have to do is be able to keep them on the track. Because number one, if they address the issue, then we have the capability to bring them right back on track. And that's our job. And that's what I do. I don't know what you do, but that's what, I mean, I want to call it simple. Nothing's ever simple, but that's how it's done. Simply.
What is something that you used to value that you no longer value?
Piano. Gosh, yeah, my pianos. I used to have a bunch. But no, we lived on a farm and we had a lot of stories and apartments and a lot of moving parts. Yet can't quite transport pianos. So I don't carry those too much anymore. They are stored in my grandfather's basement and my dad's basement, which he really enjoys having sit there, but it gives him something to bitch about. So, yeah, that's an easy one. And the violins, in the violins, because I had some, and which are very valuable.
If you could describe what you would want your legacy to be as if someone was reading it, what would you want it to say?
I would love someone to be able to find the end of themselves, to be able to understand the beginning of what themselves can be, and get rid of anything that is trashing, their well-being, their subconscious, anything like that, just to get rid of that. Get rid of that. I can help you with that. Just whatever it takes, get rid of that. Find your balance. Get rid of that crap, all that stuff. Know what you have to do. Make a decision. And that's going to give you your balance between your insecurity and your security. All that stuff, because you made a decision. And that's going to tell me volumes.
If you could create one law in the world that everyone had to follow, what would it be? And I want to know why.
You don't kill. You don't kill because it's not your right to take a soul. Period.
Well, thank you. Thank you for speaking with me. I really appreciate it.
In an amazing way, this has been the best conversation I could have ever asked for. And I appreciate this conversation as well. I really hope that it does reach us. It does reach people. I really do. It's different.
Is there any final words, anything else you want to share with the listeners? No pressure. I do always give it back to the guest.
Absolutely. Remember what your first memory is. I would hone in on that. If you have any questions about yourself, know what that is. Ask yourself to dream about it, pray about it, ask Christ about it, ask whoever you ask about it. Fine. Just do it. Answer yourself. And yourself will find yourself. And therefore, after that, you will absolutely be able to help other people find themselves. You will find it. I guarantee that. Yeah. Yeah. I love everybody that's listening. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I don't make a lot of sense, but okay.
I think that comment did.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, good. Good.
I think it could reveal a lot about ourselves.
In my mind, yes.
Like,
I don't really think that way. I'm an abstract thinker, so you're asking me very concrete thoughts, and which I really appreciate. And I like to tie it all together as well as I can. But you come at me with like really good questions, and I can't linearly think about all these things because I'm all over the map, and there's not much I can do other than just understand. But I want to reach people where they're at, and it's very important to me. I know it's important to you. I really pray I helped you out.
you did. I really appreciate this. I do. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
Is it worth it?
It was worth it. I'm positive it was well worth it. And thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Manders Mindset. In case no one told you today, I'm proud of you. I'm rooting for you. And you got this. As always, if you enjoyed the show, I would really appreciate it if you would leave me a 5-star rating, leave a review, and share it with anyone you think would benefit from this. And don't forget, you are only one mindset shift away from shifting your life. Thanks, guys. Until next time.